There are some people who don't believe that there's a gender wage gap. And you say, well, don't women earn less than men? And they might say, oh, but they're just not so interested in careers, they've taken all this time off to have children, and so it seems reasonable that they don't get paid as much as men. And on the surface, maybe that's a reasonable argument. Maybe women on average tend to have other interests and they devote less time and less energy to their jobs, in which case, sure, then they should get paid less. So one of the things that we're doing in this particular study was we're trying to look at how much of the gender wage gap is actually related to parenthood. So we had some really amazing data in New Zealand, and so we're able to follow a bunch of men and women before they had children and then coming up to the birth of their first child, and then following them for 5 or 10 years afterwards to see, well, what does happen to the income, what happens to their labour force participation, are they still working when they have this child? So very basically what we see, even before they have their first child, men are earning more than women who look similar, so similar age, similar qualifications and so on. But this difference increases a lot after they have their child, and particularly in the case of women who are away from work for longer. So if women go back to work within about 6 months, then we don't really see their hourly wages decreasing much. But if they take much longer than that, we actually see that when they get back in, so they've fallen even further behind men and they don't catch up within 10 years. It's not that parenthood can explain the whole gender wage gap, because there was this gap even before they had children, but it certainly exacerbates it, particularly for people who take longer out of work before they go back. And when we tried to look at men who take time out of work, we actually found that there are very few men who take leave when their partner has a kid and then they go back to work sometime later. And some follow-up work that I'm doing at the moment, we're actually looking at men who take leave later on. So the way some couples do it would be the woman would take time off work, and then maybe after 6 months or a year she'd go back to work and her partner would take some time off to look after the child. So we're doing some current investigation into what happens then. So is there what they call the motherhood penalty? Is it a penalty for being a mother, or is it a penalty for caring for a child and taking time out of the labour force? There's sort of some fairness in somebody taking time away from work and losing some of their skills, getting a bit rusty, then maybe it's fair that it takes them some time to build back up. If that happens to women, but it doesn't happen to men when they take the same sort of leave, then that will be a pretty strong indication that there's actually some kind of gender bias worked into the system, that it's not just a function of how good you are at your work when you get back having had some time off. So that's some of my current work, which is still in progress. Historically, we have seen the gender wage gap come down, but then it's sort of been flat for quite a while. And some of my earlier research suggests that part of that is to do with the state of the economy. So the gender wage gap tends to be lower when the economy is going really strong. When the economy gets weaker, then we might see the gender wage gap re-emerge. So I think it's really too early to say, but I don't think we should be celebrating just because it has come down. And also, if you look at the rate that it's coming down, it's been coming down over the past few decades, that would suggest that it's still going to take a really long time to reach parity. And I don't think we want to sit back and say, let's just wait for it to get there. I think we actually want to, we being the government, firms, individuals, we want to be going out there and saying, what can we do to speed this process along?